call our meeting to a start. Thank you. So we start off with apologies. We have two apologies. One is for Ken Briggs and the other for him and you. Thank you. Seconded. Thank you very much. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Anybody got anything? What be relevant to us? No. No. Okay, I'll move we pass that. Be seconded. No? Thank you. And now we move to our public forum. So I think it's just the Leaseholders Association here at the moment. I don't. Susan. Oh, but Susan's in a deputation. All right. Next. Perfect timing, Max. We've only just done the apologies. Okay, who's speaker on? Thank you.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you for letting us come and talk about issue. I know that the Kāwhia Community Board has had recommendations from the Kāwhia Leaseholders Association before in past years, but we're interested in once again putting forward the basic steering loading cycle that we did under out here. The Kāwhia Leaseholders Association represents about 1/3 of the Kāwhia population, made up all the people and families. And in fact, I've got a little package I'm going to let you have just to outline some of the issues that we want to put before you. And by the way, Board, we're not asking you to necessarily respond to us today, but rather just take on board what we're saying. Maybe we could, if it suits you, read it another time. So this package is, I didn't realise there were going to be quite so many people here, so and I think saving the tree effort. Yep. Thank you. Did I mention my name? Rob? Yeah. Thanks. Rob Barnett. I've lived in Kāwhia for 3 years. And Peter Martin, GMA. Louis Sullivan, G'day. Alice Finch. All right. We are the newbies in the Kāwhia Leaseholders Association. I'm the new chair, and my colleagues here are new to the association, new on the committee, and so we're taking up baton that previous generations of Kāwhia Leaseholders Association committees have passed on to us. So we're at the beginning of a new cycle of rental assessments. It happens every 7 years, and the first five properties in Kāwhia, 6 properties in Kāwhia have received letters from Te Tunu Pairo, who working on behalf of the Māori trustee, and so we've looked at those 5 properties at the assessments. One of the assessments is 148% rise, another one's 147% rise, and so on and so forth. They're very big leaps in the rentals, and they're outlined in the little packet I gave you on the last page. So we're not here to be adversarial or anything like that. We're just wondering how, if and how, the Kāwhia Community Board can assist us in doing the best thing we can for the community through the auspices of the Kāwhia Leaseholders Association. We're not quite sure ourselves what would be the best way forward, but we certainly wanted to put the situation before you because, as I said, we do represent about 1/3 of the people here in Kāwhia, and we've had several meetings now this year on the basis of those first 6 rentals, and people are basically scared and nervous. They're worried about having to leave Kāwhia. They're worried about what will happen to Kāwhia. They're worried about whether they'll ever get out without just walking off their property. Because now that rents on the properties are so high, and with the uncertainty associated with leasehold properties, the fear is that no one will be able to sell, and what's going to happen then? So the uncertainty is pretty strong. The nervousness is pretty strong. One of the little papers that I gave you in the 3-page document is a statement from Peter Martin, and I'm going to pass over to Peter because he's our little rep for presenting our point of view. And he's just going to read the statement. Is that what you're going to do? Page? Yeah, so I'm just passing that to Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a vice tender is. Okay. So for you that don't know me, my name is Peter Markland, and I live with my partner Helen Needham and her son Ben at 121 Short Street, Kāwhia. And we've done so for the last 4 years. So I'm retired and newly eligible for New Zealand Super and Gold Card. All three of us pick up small bits of casual work, as many people do in Kāwhia. Okay, so we used to pay $280 a month rent on the land. This worked out to be $3,360 a year. This past January 1st, our rent went up to $8,300 a year. There's a rent rise of $4,940 a year, working out to be $411.66 a month, or 147% increase on the lease of the property which I bought a few years ago. We understand the terms of our lease and are happy to pay a fair rent. We know that the land prices have risen, especially in 2019, but those land prices did not go up anything like 147%. Our previous rent was set through a process of arbitration. When we purchased the leasehold property, we felt that the previous rent was a fair market rent, and so we could afford it, carry on, and everything. And don't get me wrong, we thought that it was going to go up a little bit, but certainly not to this extent. Very few people can now afford to pay these new rentals on land that they can never own. This is a very important part. Further, give these new and higher rents, we may not be able to recoup the value of houses improvements we do own. We also paid both council and regional rates, maintenance, insurance, and so on. We moved to Kāwhia for the tranquility and beauty at an affordable price. We wanted to and still want to contribute to the Kāwhia communities by supporting local business and taking part in local activities. We do not know how long we'll be able to do so with these new increases. We do not know how we'll be able to fund the massive increase in our lease. We are not alone. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to finish off, the point of us being here is to lay this out before you. We're wondering how you might be able to assist us in Kāwhia, the community, being the community board, and it has, I guess we had a meeting last Saturday and we thought we might ask the community board or how it might write a letter of support with respect to the situation that we're putting before you. Because basically the leaseholders have in a continual negotiation with Te Tumu Paeroa, because the cycles of rental just keep coming and coming and coming. And the Te Tumu Paeroa, who operates under the auspices of the Māori trustee, it provides, as you know, a very an evidential process, which is basically based on valuations done by valuers, and that evidential process is regarded as the platform on which all recommendations and all assessments are based. And because it's a valuation process, it doesn't take into account any of the other lateral issues of life. So that's where we're at right now. We're in the middle of our negotiations. Te Tumu Paeroa and us have been negotiating since Christmas or January. We've done some, there's been a little bit of change on their part, but it's minute and insignificant. And we're still at a point now, or in fact, we're at a point now where the last email I got from Te Tumu Title said, if we don't accept their last offer, proposal, then the arbitration and mediation process will be triggered. During the last cycle, the KLA went to arbitration, and that cost the KLA and its members in excess of $160,000 to achieve a fair interest. But it looks like that's really it. They know we've got money. That's right. So,
Thank you, Rob.
hearing us.
We can't actually make a decision on anything. We'll discuss it in our general business later on.
Yep.
But I would like to say, I a couple of years ago, I owned 2 leasehold properties. I did approach the council or community board here a few years ago with the same sort of issues. But my understanding of it was the last round, it went to arbitration because we were paying 3%. They wanted 5%. The arbitrator settled it at 4%.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's 4% of land value, you know. But the land values have almost doubled, which is the problem, isn't it? It's sort of gone up majorly. So, but I think you've got a hard road ahead because we negotiated to be on that 4%, and not expecting the values to jump so quickly over such a short time. But this also happened in 2008 when, like, the lease on my first property went from 800 a year to 3.8, and that was a big jump. But they brought it back to 2.8 at the time. But it's still a set percentage value in every 7 years. So I think you've got a big fight and a hard road to slog here to make any change.
Yep. So here we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, my understanding was that from the previous negotiations that were had between the parties, that it was made clear at the time that it was an issue between the lessee and the lessors, and that the community board or the council really had no part of those negotiations or discussions. So I think that's probably where possibly you're coming from, correct me if I'm wrong, is that as a minimum, you're just asking if the community board or the council or both are prepared to offer some sort of letter in support of the concerns that you're raising. Because I guess what you're saying there is that if things become too unaffordable, there's a possibility that people are just going to out and walk out of the place. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's the feeling I get.
So in my little covering note, I make the point that the lessees contribute to Kāwhia in a wide range of ways. Being on St. John's evidence, being on the fire, being money,
Yes.
and the way that the whole process is set up does not take into account what you might call the business economy of Kāwhia as it operates, or any of the welfare and well-being of Kāwhia's community, because that's not within the purview of the valuer who's assessing rental properties. So our strategy, if you like, is that somehow we have to get around that valuation process and reach the people who are on the other side of the Te Tumu Pairo. Because Te Tumu Pairo acts as a mediator between the Māori landowners and the lessees. And I think my sense is, I may be completely wrong, is that if some of the Māori landowners knew how much, say, Mrs. Rekamar's rent's gone up there on the thing, that they'd be aghast.
Well, they know the same thing happened last time. Some of the owners here, and they had to wear it as well. It's unfortunate, but it's just the market. As so what happened with 2008, just before 2008 financial crash, global crisis here, they'd just taken all the leases up, so it really hit everybody really hard.
Yeah, I've gone into the history of it, and I've seen that the continual process of which we're now caught up in, and it just seems like there's no end to it, and there's always just going to be this kind of sense of grievance. And it's not good for a community. That's where we want to leave it at the moment.
Do you think you'd like to add? No. Oh, thank you.
Okay, thanks for hearing us,
Thanks for-
and we look forward to some response at some point. Of course, we'd be very glad to come in and talking some more. Should we just head on out?
You can
Stay if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Stay for the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call on you next, please, thank you. Are you here representing,
Oh, me?
are you representing Māori Women's Welfare League?
Yeah, I'll tell everyone. Yeah, I represent the Māori Women's Welfare League, but I'm not here really. Plus, I'm trustee at Wake Up in Marae. But we come here to have a moan about the hall. 21st of June, we had a Ōtorohanga through here. And it was freezing cold. We tried all these heaters in here. I think there's, what, six, I think. So I put my church hat on and went up to the church and got our heater. The slip wasn't going, so Kelly, Māori Women's Welfare League, we went and got our slip. So who's in charge of the hall, Dave?
We have a hall committee,
Oh, okay.
that runs the places.
The lady that unlocks the hall, she was here, but she just kept, don't know.
It's
So,
Sandra.
you know, it's,
I think it's,
remember when it was first built, my father helped build this place. For this music, or 3 times, it was all voluntary. And then to come in here and find this, it's like a dungeon. You know, just, all the ladies were supposed to be here today, but some, you know, got colds and flu, so.
and Sandra had nothing to offer when you asked you?
Some guy was here that day and said he was Aotearoa, whatever it was. I had a rant to him. He said, oh, you would bring it back to the next meeting, but we just want to know, you know.
It's something we have to take up with the hall
Yeah,
committee.
and it's sitting there too.
See it's going
Because
to.
every time we come here, we're going to have to bring our
It's been upstairs.
what?
Is it,
Oh, Elder, what about these?
sorry,
Thank you.
I'm Rolly Clean. I've been here for about 12 months. I went to school here. My farmhouse is in Taranaki, but my roots are here in Kāwhia. Yes, I was here too. I went to school with Inga, and those Tibo heaters that they advertise on TV are very cheap to run. I don't know what they cost per unit, but my suggestion is, yes, address it to the hall committee and replace all of these with those, and even change their where they're sitting. But you know, there are answers to that. It just depends on budget, I suppose. But, yes.
Can I bring one back? We bought one for the church, and it's buy one, get one free.
Yes, correct.
$600 with a stand. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's something to look into.
That's right.
Those things were coming with no.
Again, all I can say is that we take it up with the hall committee.
Can we, yeah.
Fourth of the price of 2.
What's that?
Fourth of the price of 2.
I've got 2 up there.
Sorry,
one for
Through you, Chair, if I may, this could be something that we could consider through our grants fund as well, you know, to help out. So the whole committee don't, so there's funding opportunity.
But all our old ladies were sitting around the centre, you know.
It's not good.
We don't have little heater like this, but we've got, no, we will, but thank you for letting us speak.
Does the full committee have a budget? Like, capital budget?
Yes, they have a budget. I think there's been a couple of discrepancies in the last couple of years that they're just trying to sort out at the moment.
Thank you.
So how does this request get made? Is it just you have to make a request to the committee and then they make the application? How does it work?
You can go that way, otherwise you could just go and talk to them. It's, you know, the local people, they live here, they've been.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
on the
just
board
wanting
here.
to clarify what the process
Process,
is.
yeah.
So that we're clear.
Well, I think, as I say, the initial step is to go and make contact with them and see what they've got to say.
Do you know who the hall committee are?
Oh, I just know,
There's Ross
Sandra.
Rockery, and Alan and Sandra.
Yeah.
And Mike, Rothery,
Mike Rockery.
And
and who? Hang on, yeah.
It's through the chair.
not me.
No, I think
Through the chair.
But she's not too sure how she got on here, was she?
I don't know.
Well, she hasn't been to one of the meetings for long. It's not progressing well.
Change over or how long would they be?
Oh, been a long time now. They say, best thing, anything with the Hawke Committee is make contact with them first, see what they've got to say, and then we can report back to you.
Shall we write a letter as in Māori Women's Welfare League, so it's all,
Oh, if you'd like to, I think the initial thing is you're just going to talk to them.
okay, thank you.
Through the chair though. I was the AFL.
Oh.
And Kelly kept me outside, you had a captain man there. I rang quick, and then I got hold of Shanny, kicked out the details of who was running the show and the proper protocols to do. So I rang Shanny, and I just assumed that Shanny would pass that on to Kelly. No. But thank you, I agree with you, it was cold that day. It was very
I
cold.
wasn't using those boots that day.
No, maybe it was Kelly. But I agree with you, yes.
Well, that's it. Thank you. Hang
Thank you.
on. Cheers.
Um,
All right, now we move on to our deputation, where we have Susan Turner from the Ngāti Hakairo Runanga. Want to say something?
I prepared a presentation, so. It's okay, I'll just hand it out.
I just want to ask the cameraman at the back, where's it best for our presenters to stand? Because I think Hinga was standing right in front of the camera, was she? Yeah, so where would it be best for Susan to stand?
Yeah, just 5G.
5G? Yeah, okay. Okay, to 5, thank you.
Thanks.
It was funny having her back to the end though.
If you might, stand over there with your back to the. Yeah.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Ngāti Hikairo te iwi, ko Waipapa Hangai, ko Susan Turner, aho, tēnā koe Max, and tēnā koe Tania, and community board and community members. The last, I guess the runanga has been, I can hear music. I guess the runanga in the governance group has been just literally consumed with issues. And then we saw a publication in the King Country News. And when then I realised something really quite fundamental is that we actually don't have a relationship with the community board. So I had a discussion with Tanya and thought that I think the thing to do is to actually come and have a talk with you and talk about that relationship, but most importantly talk about our aspirations. So I've just prepared a bit of a slide, and just to clarify who we are. So I mean, I know that you know we're Ngāti Hikairo, but Ngāti Hikairo has been in the sort of heat for generations and for centuries, and up until the Māori land wars and the exit of Ngāti Toa, Ngāti Hikairo has been in this area for some time. It was a thriving iwi. It had a strong economic base. It traded internationally in Kāwhia Moana. And then obviously as colonisation occurred, we were depleted of our land, of our mana, of our reo, and of who we are to the extent that we're an iwi that is now dispersed right throughout the motu. So our roki is obviously Kāwhia, Ōparo, and parts of Waipa. We have a number of hapu, and three prominent marae, which is Waipapa, Mokaraitanga, and Purikiriki. But we also have a number of Māori reservation sites. I thought I'd share a bit of data about who we are, because the census data says there's only 1,800 of us, but just alone in my whānau are the Edwards, Seymours and Wetares, and just from Rato Edwards and Ted Seymour, well, there are 1,000 of us. So I suspect that 1,800 is kind of not accurate. Waikato Tainuri's tribal register indicates that there's over 5,000. We've just established our own registry as well, and we're certainly past 1,800. But the data does present something quite interesting about Ngāti Hikairo. We're actually quite well educated. We've got, in comparison to other iwi, we certainly have a high ranking in terms of postgraduate education anyway, and also even NCA level of education. However, that doesn't reflect in their income. So most of us earn under 50,000, and we're a young population, generally speaking. And then I compared that to Kāwhia, and what was interesting about Kāwhia was that since the last census, the number of Māori are decreasing. There's very low income in this town, ageing population, and housing. I was starting to find that 70% of the dwellings in Kāwhia are rental accommodation. So housing is a significant issue, obviously, and I'm particularly interested in our whānau, but most importantly, the whole concept of manaakitanga, because that means that we have an interest in more people. I wanted to just share with you some of our challenges as an iwi, and that is especially kutia. As a governance and as an iwi, we're kind of expected to do all of these amazing things with no money. And so the Raupati settlement has that involved Ngāti Hikairo and our marae's was obviously merged into the post-settlement group. And while that entity supports marae, it doesn't support iwi, and neither does the Crown. So when you're kind of looking at sort of developments, there isn't that pathway for iwi to seek its own development. So that's a challenge for us. Plus, we do a whole lot of things with the councils, and we're fortunate with the Ōtorohanga District Council and Waikato District Council, because we do a lot of environmental resource management stuff, but at least we're funded for that. So we do cultural assessments and things like that. The other challenge is, as an iwi, is the dispersed nature of our population. So we don't live here in Kāwhia, but we go back generations and we have a legacy. And as you know, for Māori, the awa, the moana, the land, our mountain, our marae are fundamental to our existence. And it's part of who we are as Māori. So that makes it really difficult to sort of get that cohesion and that connection. But a number of my whānau want to come back here and live, including myself and my husband. So, but there isn't these economic opportunities for us to come here. So, so that's the other challenge. And obviously, as I've indicated, housing is another challenge for us. So we're kind of like trying to take a really strategic approach to this. So our aspiration is that we want our whānau to be successful and being able to operate both in the Māori world and the Pākehā world, and be really connected to Hikairotanga and Te Ahu Māori. So we've really, these are our aspirations for our whānau, and we've connected to the whānau rangatiratanga principles, which we then want to translate, which I'll go to the next level, is that, over the next page, our whānau have a number of resources that are blocked, and they present potential opportunities for our economic development. And I personally, so my career has kind of spanned both Australia and New Zealand as a chief executive And I've worked with community development type of approaches, and I'm really keen to get, that I've been having a chat to Ōtorohanga about the prospect of developing this kind of approach. And it's called, it's owned, a company owned by Mark Solomon. And when I was down in Christchurch, I was responsible for rolling out this kind of initiative down there, and it was incredibly successful. So, for example, down in Bluff, they ended up establishing 5 new businesses. And so basically, it's having the whānau work with you to co-design an understanding of resources and opportunities and or capability you might need, and what the investment pipelines might be, and then I guess put together a plan and basically implement it. And so that's what we're really keen to be able to do for our whānau and for this community and for the iwi. And part of that is papapainga housing. So again, we've been in discussions with Te Puni because there's a number of whānau that have blocks in this land that we could actually lever off that to create homes for people to come back here to. So that's kind of where our aspirations are. They're big aspirations, and we've finally got a governance group that is highly skilled. We've got accountants, lawyers, people absolutely connected to the people of our iwi, grassroots people as well as professional people. So the key projects that we're working on, I thought I'd just mention that. So obviously that's that iwi development project that's I'm just discussing with you, and then we're heavily involved in resolving the Waitangi Tribunal claims. So the initial approach by the Crown was that they wanted us to join the large natural grouping of Waikato Tainui. We were successful in negotiating a different solution. So we are going to be part of a tripartite arrangement with Waikato Tainui, Maniputo and ourselves, directly negotiating with the Crown for White 30 and our remaining claims. And the other thing is the MACA, which is the Takatai Moana, which is the foreshore and seabed claim that is before the High Court at the moment, and we're having a discussion with Ngāti Mahuta whether we do direct negotiations or perhaps go through the High Court process. But what that research, we've had to engage a researcher, and what that research has shown is a significant use by Ngāti Hikairo culturally for many generations of the moana that even goes back to Pūhekereke and their use of our moana. So it's not just Kāwhia, it's the whole of the iwi. So those things are in play. We've got a project manager who's managing that, and that's Lee Seymour, who's a very experienced executive. And then we've got a number of projects underway with the councils, both Ōtorohanga and Waipara District Council, which is the resource management stuff. So we're working with the Ōtorohanga District Council on the pipe for water pipes, doing the cultural advice there, and we've just finished Manga Kawari for the Waipara District Council. So what I really wanted to do was, number one, describe who we are, our aspirations, what we want to be doing, but also more importantly is establishing a relationship with this board. And we've got a really strong relationship with the council, and find pathways of engaging you to be involved in our development. So, is there any questions or comments or things that you'd like to talk to me about? So I live in Wellington, but we're from Palmerston North. I've got 4 children, 5 grandchildren, and so I'm free with driving up here. Like I did last night.
Just one question. Thank you for that excellent presentation. Thank you.
Let's go.
Just one question. Is the issue of Ngāti Hikairo being an iwi in its own right, is that still being debated by some people?
No.
Or is it's still
No.
It's okay.
The construct of the Raupata settlement, and I think this is important thing for people to understand, is the evolution of Māori and iwi over the years. And so at the time of the Raupata settlement, and I guess getting that over the line is that we were regarded as papu. Waikato Tainui are not an iwi, they are a post-settlement entity. We all connect to the Tainui waka, and each iwi is an entity in its own right. And the Te Rohi Kotai Committee gives a really good outline and description of Ngāti Hikairo as an iwi. So the hapu term, particularly, I know this has been a debate with the Raukato settlement, is really an iwi, but that's just the construct of that time.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Waikato Tainui acknowledge us as an iwi, Maniapoto acknowledge us as an iwi, the Crown do, we're on the census database, so we are acknowledged, yeah.
And how far through are we with Y30 on the harbour?
Oh, that's going to take a number of years. Yeah. So we've just agreed to a draft OIT with both Waikato Tainui and Maniapoto, and then Lee's is going to be undertaking a iwi consultation from from Auckland down to Dunedin over October, November. So what the whānau want to do is they want to be able to determine what those options are. So the tripartite agreement is one option. Doing nothing is another option. Going out on our own is another option. And I guess those are the options that are going to put to the whānau, and they get to make full, not the iwi. Right. So we're very clear about who makes those decisions. Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
That's all right.
Okay, I've just got a few questions regarding your letter to the Mayor, or your email to the Mayor. Basically, I was quite offended by what you put down here, and start here. Article 4 said Dave Walsh claimed the ownership of the Pūtakawa Kārua had passed to the King in 1980, and that Tainui had ownership. This claim is incorrect. Ngāti Hikairo had mana whenua at Te Pāpara Kārua, have done so continuously for close to 200 years. The rākau has not been alienated. Yes, you have mana whenua. I've talked quite a lot with our local kaumātua. Their view, in my view, is it was Tainui waka that tied up to the tree, right? So all of us that whakapapa back to that Tainui waka are owners of that tree.
Well, I guess it comes down to which kaumātua were you talking to and all that sort of stuff, and that is not the narrative of our history. And this is what I've been.
This was decided before you came in.
I've afforded you the respect to finish. Can you please let me finish? What I'm indicating to you is that is not our narrative. That's not the Ngāti Hikairo iwi narrative. That before I wrote that letter, we checked with Jack Cunningham and people like that. And so that's what I'm portraying to the council about that. But there are other things in there, and some of the statements that were made that were concerning in terms of portraying negative context of our culture.
I don't see how I did it. How did that? Can you give me a specific example of that?
Well, to imply that people who take leaves from their
I never implied anyone took leaves.
No. What I'm saying is I'm reporting the article that that was recorded by the King Country News. I contacted them first, and what they said to me was that they simply recorded everything that you said because it was transcribed, because it was recorded. And so I was writing to Tanya and to Max expressing the iwi's concerns, the Runawa's concerns, the governance's concerns. This is not just my concern.
So you're saying
of those statements that were made, and the perception that kind of leaves that if you touch that tree, there's a little on you and things like that, which isn't exactly correct.
If you damage it, there is.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
That's not the opinion, and this is not my personal opinion. So I want to be really clear about that. This is a governance opinion. This is an iwi opinion in terms of governance.
So you're saying
this is a kaumātua opinion.
Hikairo own the tree, is that what you're saying?
Hikairo or kaitiaki and mana whenua of the tree.
So yes. what's the kaitiaki? Kaitiaki is the caretaker.
We're the caretaker.
The caretaker. So you're caretaking it for all the rest of the Tainui, aren't you?
That's right.
Because Tainui the actual
And I
owners
think
of the
you're
tree.
playing with semantics.
It's not playing with
No, I
semantics. This
think
is,
you are.
well, you might think that, but I don't agree with what you say.
You know, like I didn't come here to have an argument about that letter because I felt that it was resolved.
Oh, because
I-
you've had your
and I
say, no one is allowed
appreciate-
to answer.
And I appreciate that you are concerned about that. I've come here to indicate the importance for us to have a relationship with the community board.
Well, this is not a very good start, is it? This sort of letter.
No, it's not a good start with you, right?
With me, especially when in your issue
Well,
three
no,
here,
we
you,
have-
excuse me, I'm talking now.
Sorry, yes, you're right.
Right? Issue 3, where you point out and accuse me of racism. Racism, where'd you get that from? Because I
of the
said to
bias that you were
the bias was saying that Tainui owned the tree, which is my belief they do.
No, it's more than that. It's more than what you said.
Oh, and I described an incident that happened in the 1990s. Were you here? Did you know anything about that incident?
I am not. I can't comment on that. No.
No,
And
because you
again,
weren't here,
I
so you
would- I
don't know what
would
happened
agree.
there, and I do.
You're the chair and you're supposed to be controlling this meeting, and I'm wondering how this meeting is going to get controlled because I think that you're a biased person. I think you should have declared a conflict of interest
Well, I think
in
myself
relation to this presentation.
that this whole letter was more about you making yourself known to us and
No.
wanting to be heard.
Excuse me.
I'm writing on behalf of the
Excuse me,
board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't see this conversation going any further, really.
No,
I can't see the
it's a
point.
difference of
I
opinion.
think,
Yeah,
I think these are sorts of issues that are best dealt with outside of this room.
yeah.
You know, I actually wanted to respond to your
Yeah,
accusations.
no, that's fair
No,
enough,
but
I
the
think-
point that I'm making
Yeah.
is that you have a conflict of interest. You are the
What?
chair. You
What's-
should,
what's my
no,
conflict
you
of
need
interest?
to let me finish. You should have
So you keep
disclosed
saying.
that at the beginning of the meeting and somebody else chair the meeting.
What's my conflict of interest?
Because you are disgruntled with that letter.
Yes,
And now you're
I think
attacking
anybody
me
would
for
be.
it.
I'm not attacking. I'm not. You just justify yourself. As I say, you
No,
accuse me of
That is
racism.
not, that is
Did you
not
just
the
look at my
point.
last name because you don't know me? I'm
No,
Natia
that
Kaito
is
as
the
well. you know.
point. Doesn't matter if you're Māori or white.
I said Natia Kaito.
Our
As well.
elected members might want to step in at this point
Yeah,
and put
fine.
things under
Yeah.
control.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that we're live streaming right across the world.
And the other point
Thank
is
you.
that I wrote that to these two and I got a response and I believe the matter's been dealt with. I understand that they spoke to you. I'm raising with you that you've got a conflict of interest. You shouldn't be chairing the meeting and the other board members should
And
be
that's your
managing it.
opinion. That's your opinion. You're
No,
allowed
it's
your
not that.
opinion.
That's standard governance practice.
It's not. These two replied. The letter was about me. You're saying I don't get to reply?
You need to go back
That's
to
what you're
your
saying?
mayor and you need to go back to your chief executive.
In your opinion again.
I'm not.
I'm trying to
this
reply.
is
I'm trying to
not
reply to your
my
accusations.
opinion. This is
Please.
the governance's opinion.
Please, guys.
Yeah.
I think this has gone far.
Yeah, no, he's attacking me now and I'm just responding and I'm
Okay.
raising the issue for you guys to deal with that because that's not my place. Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I wonder if I could respond to Susan.
Susan, yes.
Susan's original co-pilot, if you want to bring in, so we can shift the conversation that you are.
Probably not all right through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. Just
Okay,
if
so
we're going to stick with standing orders and proper conduct of this meeting, then it's probably not all right. It's all right to hear the deputation, ask some questions
Yeah,
to
that's
clarify. If we need another hui or another meeting after this, okay, to pai, that's fine as well. And then we thank our speaker and and for coming.
No, that's all right.
It's probably the normal process we would use, unless there's any questions.
Well, the one thing I'd like to make is if you don't like anything that we've written, you're welcome to put your case to the Rūnanga because that is the Rūnanga's position, not my personal one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so our next one is confirmation of our minutes from our previous meeting.
Yeah, I'll move.
Okay, I'll second.
There were just a couple of items, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you to staff for organising the upgrade of the entrance sign into town here. They've done a really good job. It looks really smart. Yeah, it was long overdue. The other thing I was just going to ask was, perhaps through you, Mr. Chairman, and ask Tania. Tania, are you aware of if there's been any applications made for funding for the prop for the Ōtorohanga for the tree down there? I think we were waiting on some were we supposed to be doing anything in terms of
Yeah.
actually go looking for funding?
Through
for that?
you, Chair, it's a very good question, and Mark is here. Maybe he can update us on anything further that we were looking at for the tree in terms of a permanent crop.
So, thank you through, Chair. It was my understanding the last.
Yeah, I think you need to come up. Sorry, it sounds like a voice from the tomb.
So it was my understanding last time was that board member Hanger was looking through at some funding for it, but it was on pause at this stage. So the temporary prop is under there; it's still doing its job. So that's where we left it at the last juncture.
Yeah, I understand that Hinger has raised it with Tainui, Waikato Tainui, and also with the Maori King, but I don't know where it's
I'm
gone
not
to
yet,
from there.
it's up in the air.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. What we've been in the negotiations with Waikato Tainui. We've met with their cultural manager, and they've got money to be able to fund what contribute to that, and they're looking at funding sources.
So do we just need to make some sort of an application?
No,
Follow up.
if Mark could liaise with us,
Yes.
and then we'll liaise with Waikato Tainui.
Excellent.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Great.
But we've had a meeting with them.
Thank you very much. And that was all. Thanks.
Just one more for you, Mark. Just what you sorry.
Oh, you're up there on the stand.
Yeah.
The other issue that Ellen brought up with you about the root system or doing something. What's actually?
Yeah, so the meeting I had with Alan was we discussed changing the footpath or the access down to the beach. I explained to them that it's quite a process before we start doing any sort of excavations under that tree. So we've sort of parked that to one side. But what we did say, Alan, is we would get some safety railing installed on the sort of concrete retaining walls that go down there. And that's currently in fabrication. So Ross Dockery is building those and they'll be installed shortly. So to do any excavation under that tree will require resource consent. So that's just been put off. It's a reasonable piece of work to get to that stage. The sort of suggestions Alan had some merit, but then also had some sort of I suppose negatives to them, as he wanted to move back to sort of like a grass footpath or grass path, and I think that's fine early on, but eventually it will become mud. So currently it's a concrete footpath, and we're not going to rip that out anytime soon until we've done some more work on it. Yeah, so that's sort of like there's two things to that, and that's where it's sort of standing at the moment.
All right, thank you.
Well, yeah, exit or
All right, did you have something else you could?
No, that was it for me. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
So we can move to the minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so it's the Chairman's report. Pretty basic one for me, and mostly concerning the sports club. As you're aware, we've had the sports club burned down, big loss to the town, major loss to the town. The good news is we've just had confirmation yesterday of the insurance. So we're meeting on site with them on Monday or Tuesday with the insurance and the architects, and we'll get a bit of forward momentum.
Oh, that's good news. Yeah. So will that you're saying architects involved? Yes. So will that plan come back to the obviously to the committee and to members as well?
Yes, what we're going to do is just get whatever they come up with, and then have a members meeting, which we'll probably invite members of the public as well. But we just want to get something solid that we can tell and deal with exactly what the process is through the insurance company.
Right.
As not sure if they want us to go to their architects or we're allowed to get our own, or what the tender processes are going to be, and also we have to find all this out before we come to.
Mr. Chairman, just while you're on there, so I was going to bring this up as part of the general business, but Waipa, I know what Waipa Networks have got a fund, and they are conscious of the fact that they haven't done a lot of work in our area for some time. And when I spoke with the CEO earlier this week, he indicated that they could possibly look at helping with some funding for the sports club.
Every bit will be great, and materials going up, it's going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah, yeah. So even if it's, I mean, even if you only get a few $1,000s or something, it's all helps, doesn't it? So, so if I can give you the contact number or name or whatever you want.
All right, yes, thank you.
Yep, good.
Every little bit, much appreciated.
Yep.
So, what else was on? Not too much else really. Except that I seem to feel myself and a bit of worry towards the leaseholds, because I had leasehold property myself, a couple. But you've got a hard road to go to there.
Yeah, we have strategy.
I feel like it's a hard road for all those leaseholders. It's, we're only a couple of people here, sort of putting the case forward, but, and I don't think a lot of these leaseholders are actually going to know what's going to hit them when theirs come up.
Yeah, well, last time it cost us at least a couple of thousand each to go to arbitration. And then the arbitrator just went, oh, 3 to 5, to make it 4. So,
yeah.
I know that's all I've really got to say. That's what I know about the sports club. Is, I suppose the other thing is the impact of rising prices and costs, fuels, all that stuff. We're noticing town's quiet. It's really quiet. The shops are noticing it too. The other week it was fine. Yes, there was a lot of a few cars down the boat ramp filled up, but they pretty much all went home. And people just aren't staying and spending their money at the moment. So, you know, our economy's taking a little bit of a hit. There's inflation, but you can just carry on and see it improves over summer.
Very good.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I wonder if maybe at some point it would be appropriate for a member of the public like myself to address the board with respect to some economic opportunities that seem to be around, if only that there's someone who would come up. I don't mean businesses, but I mean organisations such as the various organisations we have here. Natalie Cairo have just stepped up with a sort of leadership proposal, and that kind of thing, I think, is something that we could all take advantage of and treat those as opportunities, particularly given that there are assets at Kāwhia that aren't yet, you know, the line fellow. I just wondered whether it would be okay if I was to come at some point and just.
Yes, just let us know and we'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah. Oh, so, just one other thing too, through you, Mr. Chair, we've got a review of the town concept plan coming up starting in the new financial year, and that would be a good opportunity to bring forward all of those sorts of ideas as part of that process. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I was going to say the same, not the new financial year, after the election.
Right.
So we don't have to wait for the next financial year, it's now. So all we're waiting for is the election to happen, and then we start the process around the review of the Kāwhia town plan. And so these kind of discussions with everyone in the room can happen then. We're just about to complete the Ōtorohanga town concept plan, so we just extended the deadline around that for submissions, but yeah, similar kind of process led by the board.
Right. May I, sorry, is the intention of the council to engage the same group that did the town plan for?
We will run an open procurement process to select, and the board will be involved in the selection of the consultants who undertake the work.
Very good.
All right, thank you. Someone want to seek my report?
Yes.
Well, and second. That's okay. Now we just move on to general business.
Board members.
What might be update? So I'll actually start with you first, Steve, because
They'll be only one week.
Like to welcome our public delegations and our presentation on
always been keen on this. So thank you for that. On Malta. And Rod, good to see you here and doing your thing. But I didn't realise there was much an issue with the KI. So that's pretty significant for the future of the council. I'm sure. So, and I agree with David. Challenging. But it's not bad news, it's certainly good news around this place at the moment. And you might mention some of the employment opportunities with the Kāwhia stands opening up next October.
Mm.
You know, there's going to be a lot of opportunities there, and that's going to bring people into town for sure. I can imagine that the conferences and the meetings and movies that will be held over there, you know, so it's going to be fantastic. But in terms of Aotea, Aotea's cranking along okay. The forestry started up with this and all, Mark. Thank you for your team for the road works that we've got an expressway over there now. We didn't realise that the road was so damn big. Just cleared a bit of the pine needles off with the road under there. So really impressed for that. But you know, for the resource consent conditions that ADC have put in there, they respect them over there. You know, it's how to run a good forestry operation. You know, so thank you ADC for your input that you've got that going. You know, there's signs going up, they don't travel any more than 30. They had restrictions on air brakes coming down the hills. That's because a lot of trucks come down here, so they don't need them. So there was going to be no air brakes around the place. They didn't realise that when the truck were bringing in the middle, they needed air brakes to come down the hill. See, so boom, an email goes around, it goes out to all the Aotea residents, and everyone knows what's going on. We have very short meetings and email trails over there. I'm making sure. But if you could pass it on to Max and your team for that. We've got our Kāwhia, Aotea tour coming up 6th of September. So I'll check the tide's right for that. We just hope that the weather's right. There's a little bit of excitement going on, Brad, here on it's going to be a something going on. But as with all good news, a little bit of sad news. And a group of fishermen that had connections, long-term connections in Aotea, really last month had a really bad experience going about the illegal activities in Kāwhia. And they got, when they went out fishing, they were well within their rights. They were commercial fishermen and knew what they were doing. They weren't breaking any rules, regardless of any rumours that you hear around the place. They were not breaking any rules. When they came back, their bog ties were slashed. Someone had a wee chat with them to the point that they didn't feel safe leaving their vehicles here, so they got some tow trucks in from out of town. They couldn't get enough tow trucks to take all the car trailers and boat trailers and chiller trucks and utes back to Aotea. So they actually drove their vehicles, one of their vehicles back to Aotea. They towed the boat, so there's great big cows marks on the road. The next day they had to get some tyre guys in from Auckland to fix it, and it was $6,500 later to get their tyres fixed. And one of the guys nearly had another accident driving back to Auckland that night when there was such a damage to his car because he drove his ute back to Aotea on the rims that he didn't realise the damage down the body of it, and it stripped out his new tyres when he was heading back to Auckland. He nearly had another accident on the road back to Auckland. I've been in contact with him. It's a bit ironic that he was attacked for going about his legal duties. But the long and short of it is, the guy they were fishing legally. I got a text from him this morning. He says, "Look, I'd just love to come back and fish in my harbour again." So my concern is that we had issues at Aotea, and we got around some of those issues with security cameras. I know there's a good network of security cameras in Kāwhia, but I don't understand there's anything down at the boat. No. That's where the problems are. And I'd just like to throw it out there that maybe this could be something that the board could look at. And it'll certainly get Kāwhia's in for a good future, particularly with its sands, with Kāwhia sands. But if people get accused of fishing illegally and raping, they will not come. But we need to make it safe. Yeah, stand it out. Yeah, something else. I don't know the process will be, Dave, but
I'm not sure either. I think it's a bit of a hard one, you know. Like I feel sorry for the guys and that happened, and it's not justifiable in any manner. I did have heard the stories, like you say, about them fishing illegally. One was from the guys that do fish here, was that they had 2 boats and only one was licensed.
They wouldn't have reported to the police in any way legal, I believe. They had GPSs on their boats, and they were GPS monitored by fishers, so everything was legal. They had registration numbers on their boats. They drove past me, and I went and saw them. So whatever rumours you hear, totally legal, legally fishing. And they would not have reported it to the police. They just would have slunk away and never come back again. The guys want to come back to it. They've fished here before and they just want to come here fishing. That's all. And it's not only them. It's when the article went out in the paper. I think as a community board, we need to seek to do something to answer that article and say, hey, this is a decision that we made as a community board to try and make a community safer. There's been a rash of illegal criminal activities in the last 2 to 3 months. We had the Dove got robbed, there's $17,000 worth of fishing gear taken from him. That was his business that he couldn't operate.
And a lot of burglaries.
Yeah, the boating club's been broken into that, tried to get into that. The golf club's been broken into, they've broken into that.
From what I understand, they know who it is, they're just trying to catch him.
Yeah, some guy, another commissioner, wouldn't got his propeller stolen on the boat.
Yeah, that's what the commission got here.
And the underlying,
had his output,
so we want to talk about criminal activity in Kāwhia. It's not fishing. The underlying and the elephant in the room is the drug problems in Kāwhia and the associated problems that brings into town.
Yeah,
so I'm just saying, AFT has its issues. We're onto them. And I think it's just time the community board. If we want a challenge and we want something to be able to get our teeth into next year or this year, does it make our community safer? And then make our safer for your farm and your timber and everyone's timber. But it's not safe.
Yeah, we've moved ahead with that already by putting cameras downtown here, more cameras in the CBD. But we haven't had, we already have them, but we haven't never had a request or a need for ones down the boat ramp before. So this, I suppose, is the time we decide that, okay, let's get some prices and see what's going to cost.
For you, Mr. Chair, is the issue at the boat ramp, or is there a wider issue here? Because this week we've just facilitated or co-facilitated a session on town security in Ōtorohanga, and I just wonder whether this isn't a broader community conversation that we invite, whoever's interested in, police, and organisations and that in to actually discuss what the issues are, where they are, and maybe then put a plan around it rather than just let's throw some cameras in. And that may be the answer.
I saw that on the paper.
And it's certainly part of the Ōtorohanga kind of answer, but it's not the whole answer. So so I don't know. My team, I think, would be really happy to be involved in organising something like that, similar to what we have done.
I agree, Tanya. I don't think they're just monging and cameras down there fixing things, right? But if it can instigate a community involvement, like you on that together, I'm all for that.
I think it's a really good idea because we're becoming more and more aware of drug issues.
Yeah. And we've got to stop
Yeah.
pretending it's not there, right?
All right. Well, that could be an action.
So sorry to end up on bad news, but the good news is that the team's back in action again for next year with Dave and Ken and Hannah and myself, and we've got two going for the big job over there. So thank you both for attending and best of luck.
Red corner.
But best of luck with the next month.
Cheers. Thank you.
You're both a great asset to the, and who I reckon really one should take the other one as a deputy mayor anyway. So, like a tag. But that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yes, my congratulations to yourself and to Jeff, Hannah and Ken for your re-election. And you've got some interesting times ahead, particularly now with that concept that we talked about coming up. I think that's going to be a really good process, and it's going to draw out of the community a whole lot of issues and things that we'd like to see happen here. So So that's, I've got a couple of things here. I just wanted to quickly run through. It's been quite a busy month, actually. I've been to a few things, risk and assurance meeting on the 26th of July. And one of the issues that came out of that meeting was, in broad terms, the realignment, staffing realignment, and the review that you're doing with some of the departments of the council. And so that's an ongoing process. And on the following day, they had a better off workshop in Ōtorohanga, which was really cool. And we got some really, it was quite an active sort of a workshop, really, wasn't it? And some really good ideas came out of that. And I think you've listed the top 5 or 10 or something. Yeah, top 10 that came out of that. And some really good stuff, and a really good representation from iwi and from the local community there. So they're good. 3rd of August, there was the CEO's performance review, which I took part on in the preliminary part of that. And then on the 4th was that town concept plan. On the 6th of August, I went out to a special meeting at Waipapa, but that didn't last very long. So there's some issues that the marae needs to be dealing with out there, which is their business. There was a council meeting on the 16th of August, and then this Monday, I just happened to have a chance meeting, if you like, with Sean Morgan from Waipa Networks, and he was just with a conversation, Dave, about the funding of some community type projects out here came from, and then the meeting with the Ōtorohanga security thing on Tuesday night, where we did, even though it was based around the Ōtorohanga situation, I did raise the issue of security cameras and so on in Kāwhia as well, just to put a plug in for us out here. So that was pretty much it. I've got 1 or 2 items in general business, so I can deal with those later.
Well, you might as well just go for it now. It's just general business, new updates.
Right. Well, it was really just, I was just going to ask Mark through the chair. Mark, are you able to just give us an update on what's happening or what's been happening with the waterworks here, and when the footpath maintenance construction program is going to start next year?
Thank you. Through you, the chair. I just, Councillor Jeffries asked me the other day if I could give a bit of an update on what we've been doing as far as in the water area in Kāwhia, and we've got quite a few things happening, and I think it was probably quite timely that we talked to the board and just sort of give you a bit of an update. So I've made a few notes. I'll try not to talk too long, but it's probably ultimately we probably need to bring a formal report back and just give you more of an update. So this will be reasonably high level. I can take some questions, but it's just a sort of an indication of what's going on. So you'll all recall our LTP focus at the last LTP was to increase our infrastructure projects and do quite a lot in the water space, and Kāwhia was one of the areas that was identified, and the sort of projects that we've been doing currently is the upgrading of the water treatment plant. So we've upgraded the sand filter and clarifier. So originally we were going to do a clarifier and a sand filter, but we've used some new technology up there, and we're just putting in a pressure filter, which works on a sort of different filter media. So that's almost complete. We're looking at commissioning that around the 12th of September. So we'll be doing a changeover in town, and some information will come out about that when we shut the water off. Luckily, we've got a considerable amount of storage, and you probably won't even know we've done it until it's all up and running. So that's one of the things at the plant. So that's been a really quite a long process, and COVID didn't help in the middle of that. So really pleased to see that come online in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So the other major project we undertook this year was the installation of the water meters, and we've installed the 300 out of the 330 odd that we needed to do. We've got quite a considerable number of difficult ones to figure out, around that 30 to maybe 40 number. They're difficult, and as we don't know where a lot of the existing connections are to properties. There's multiple properties connected to other properties, so we had the same problem in Ōtorohanga when we did theirs, and some 4 years later we're still dealing with the odd difficult one. So the actual contract's completed, but the difficult ones will just be done in-house as we sort of work through them. But on a positive note on that, I did report that we found a considerable leak during that, and several other smaller leaks, and we have, according to my water engineer, we have noticed a reduction in our minimum night flows. So we definitely made a difference installing those water meters. They're purely a management tool, and currently they're actually being effective. So that's a really good result, I thought. We've also upgraded the main bulk meter that comes out of the plant now. So we've got live data that we can monitor any changes in sort of consumption in town. So it'll be interesting to see what Christmas brings, and if we've made that level of saving, that will help us. But again, you know, it's something that from a resource point of view, just because we might have saved some doesn't mean we should use more. So we'll still be looking at restrictions, which we'll talk about later on, but just to lay that out there right now. So we want to, you know, we don't want to get into the same scenario we were Christmas just gone. So that's that. And probably the other major project that's going on at the moment is the replacement of water mains in Kāwhia. So that's part of the Waipa District Council and Ōtorohanga District Council joint procurement plan. They've got their contract, and they're currently installing water mains in Ōtorohanga and Taumuru, Cambridge. Part of that project was to replace 2.4 kilometres of water mains in Kāwhia. So we're currently scheduling that work for in March next year. It's a 2-year program, so there'll be installations in March next year and then later in the next financial year. So we're still working through all the processes to get to that stage with cultural impact statements and archaeological assessments. It's not that straightforward just to put pipes in the ground in Kāwhia, as we all understand. There's quite some significant sites here that we have to factor in. So just to let you know what streets we're looking at, currently it will be Tainui Street, Waiwera Street, Kāwhia Street, Kāwhia Street, and Amaho Street. So it's pretty much that side of Kāwhia, and they're all replacements of old fibre cement, asbestos cement pipes. So it's a 2-year program, and it's got a value. I mean, I won't go down to the dollars and cents, but it's about $700,000 capital renewal program. So that's a few things in the water area. So there's quite a bit of work in front of us, and we've got a few things underway. And yeah, so I can detail that in a more formal report later on with some aerial photos and some plans to show you all that. But yeah, just a bit of a high level assessment of what's going on.
Thank you.
Footpaths?
Footpaths, yeah, I think that would have been a nice one to warn me on council. I could have got a better update for you. So I do know that is this financial year. So we've done the Kāwhia ones, the Ōtorohanga ones, we're into the Kāwhia. I can't give you a start date, but yes, sorry about that, but I know it's in this financial year, that part of the program. So it's probably not good footpath weather at the moment. So I imagine it's
until after the elections and later in the waiting room.
yeah.
So,
Very good. Thank you, Martin.
Through the chair, well,
Sorry, through this, or just for this. Any update I can take back to Chair, just on the sequel?
Yes, I can. I actually made a couple of notes about that too, in case you ask me. So we've engaged the structural engineer that will do the assessment of the structure. So there's two things. There's the actual structure, and then there's the effects of the structure on the surrounding environment. So we've engaged two consultants, which will bring some specialist skills that we don't have in house. So that's all underway. We'll be starting a survey shortly with some drones to actually take a survey and sort of look back at what the historical data of previous surveys looks like to see what's changing with that wall. So we will probably see those reports in the next sort of six or so weeks. But we're currently on schedule for the resource consent renewal application date, and that's the most important part. So
That's May, I think.
yeah, I think it's May actually. Yeah, so but we've got a so we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And yeah, we should see something shortly. So yeah. It's good to hear. Yeah. So it was no, and I can just actually, while I'm here, I might as well take the liberty just to update on the pine needles. I've spoken to my acting roadie manager, and he's working on some other way of dealing with this rather than having members of the public out there shoveling them off the roads. So
Very effective.
it is very effective, but I'm very mindful of the danger.
Very scared. They're very good on clearing road slips over there when trees come down. Particularly with maneuver trees, when they're fast.
We can't change the Kiwi way, but we can definitely do something else in that area. So he's going to come back to me on that shortly with a bit of a plan.
Oh, it's sweet now, it's great.
Yeah.
But
There's no reason why it can't be. If there's definitely an ongoing issue, maybe those trees won't be there. I'm not sure if they're part of the village.
No,
trees are
one
not
side,
part of it. Yeah.
one side is, but it is the westerly side, so that's coming down, but that's not really 3 years, 4 years before that goes. But it's certainly made a hell of a difference in a checking the volume trucks. So yeah, are starting to move through here now. So yeah, it's great. So yeah, excellent.
Yeah, so any questions? I don't know if I can take questions from the public.
I think we'll allow a bit informal today.
Probably a bit of
Yes, just about fire hydrants.
Oh no,
Is that something that is on the plan in the residential area on the streets, or is it only restricted just to the main buildings?
Fire hydrants.
Yes, to the commercial buildings.
You
know, like in Auckland or other towns, they have hydrants in the residential area.
Yeah, there are.
You know, there are. We have a few.
Yeah, so I think it's every 135
Is
meters.
Yeah, yeah. So that's adequate at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's the guidelines that we follow.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we wouldn't look to be putting extras in.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Speaking of that, I would probably, in time to come, put a request in for another one up by the sports club after what happened, because they actually had to drag their hoses through the paddock
Yes.
and up by the old Catholic church there to get a feed down, which took them quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure how big this building's going to be, but that fire safety may be part of that design anyway. So yeah.
It can seem.
Everyone close.
Yeah, but that's good feedback, Mr. Chairman. I mean, that's sort of stuff that we can make change. But
Thank you.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I please ask a question just on the water side of it?
We might as well, everyone.
Just remember.
Just on the water side, have you for quite a few of the community, they've noticed a massive drop in water pressure. Is that coming back to you? Any of that feedback or whatever?
Yeah.
So that we have now. I can hold the thumb over the end of a hose, and I don't have any water at all
apparently this has been addressed, but twice they've had a go at it and it's still not any better.
So it doesn't come to me personally, those issues, but we do control the pressure in town. And that's part of managing our resource again, is you all know that the reservoirs are quite high up on the hill, and at the boat ramp we're well over 100 psi, so we need to manage that pressure. So we do control that at the plant, but individual issues like that, you know, that's a service request that we can look into. I know I do recall one not so long ago that I was aware of, and I think that might have been a meter issue from the installation, but yeah, they don't come to me directly. But I'll take that on board in case. So which street are we talking about?
Well, we're in Short Street, as I gave that presentation before. So I know Mopo Street is struggling. Also a house at the moment just above the hotel. Once again, very little pressure. So, and as I explained to them when they came along, I don't believe that by holding your thumb or your finger over the end of the hose should stop water coming to your house.
That may be a meter issue, because I'm up Ōtorohanga Street there, you know, up on top of the hill, and I've got heaps of pressure. But you can't put your hand on the end.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that. And,
So maybe some
this is what
Meter
happened.
installation issue.
They've been out twice, and we've just requested for them to have another look at it again. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we can do.
I'm worried about what's going on at Christmas time. We might get anything.
Mr. Chair, just sorry, while we've got Mark there, just one more question. Mark, would you be able to raise through your contacts with Waka Kātahi the issue of litter on the water tables of State Highway 31? Because they reckon that through their contractor, whom I understand is Fulton Hogan, that they're supposed to be clearing those regularly, and there's been nothing done for months. It's an absolute disgrace. And you know, when you see the roadside mower going through those areas, you wonder what's been chopped up and all of that, and then we wonder what's coming through all our stormwater and all that sort of stuff as well. But if something could be raised with them and just say that we are concerned about the increasing amount and the fact that nothing's been done about it.
Yeah, on 31.
On 31. And even between Ōtorohanga and Pōrongia on 29 or whatever it is, it's really bad there too.
Yeah, I can definitely do it.
Thank you.
Can I have sneak one else? Through the chair? Well, it's only because you mentioned the fire at the sports club, and we've discussed that at Aotearoa as well, about the you know, firefighting resources at Aotearoa, and we're thinking about, you know, getting a couple of 25,000 litre tanks somewhere. You know, it's going to start the ball rolling in a month's time, but if we needed to put something down by the playground, that's obviously council land, and what would be the process to start permission to put something like that in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably let's just discuss what you're thinking first, and then figure that out.
I wasn't going to mention it again.
Yes.
No, it's good.
You've got to find the water and put it in there and store it and make sure it's available. Yeah, there'll be lots of things we can do.
That would be something that the council would be keen on talking about.
Oh, yeah, but especially if it's looking at going on council land. Yeah, that would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
No, thank you,
Mr.
Mark.
Chairman.
Very good.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, I haven't really got anything. Everyone's covered everything. Pretty well, Mr. Orr.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just chip in just briefly.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Ray Meadows. I've lived here for 12 months, but I've been coming here 20 odd years. I'd like to get back to what we talked about with this building here. It's a community building. It is not community friendly. Now, after we had the fire, I inquired about using this room 2 hours once a week in the evening, $60 for a volunteer group. That's wicked. That's not community minded. I was speaking to other folks in the community, they find the place not user friendly either. So I just believe that as a community, it needs to be that way inclined. Thank you.
Can we just clarify, who actually owns this building?
Council.
Council does, or the community, town community? Or-
Through you, Mr Chair, actually the community owns every single one of our assets.
Yeah.
We're kaitiaki, we look after everything
Yeah.
as a legally constituted organisation. So you could argue that every pipe, every pump, every hall, everything is actually owned by the community. But the building is one of our assets that we are charged with looking after. Having said that, we pass on that responsibility to the hall committee.
Yep.
So what I'm hearing today is some concerns. And so I guess as a community board or as organisations, letters to the hall committee, I wouldn't step in. I wouldn't be advising any of my staff to step in to a governance arrangement that's been set up.
Yep.
Obviously, at some point, probably with the community's blessing, I think it probably needs to be dealt with and the concerns raised from the community board. You've heard some people here today, so you've probably got enough ammunition for a letter to go to the hall committee, just raising some concerns.
Yeah. But can I just clarify that? Is the ownership, is it the Ōtorohanga District Council that owns this building, or is it the Kāwhia community that owns this building?
It is on the Ōtorohanga District Council fixed asset register.
Is that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, community boards can't own anything. Only council can own something.
Sure.
And the legislation. So, yeah, it's
Yep.
Council.
Yep, that answers it. Oh, thank you.
Yep.
That's great. Good.
Well, is there anything you'd like to discuss?
No.
One little.
But the members of the public too.
I was speaking to my neighbours about the rates discount for low income or pensioners. Apparently, the council used to send a representative to Kāwhia mainly to help the elderly and those that are not electronically, you know, they're challenged and that. Is that ever likely to come again where they might come, council might send someone out?
You've
to
got a manager finance.
just
How
to
about
help,
that?
So,
allow those people to make those applications? 'Cause it's got to be done anyway,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
yeah, so customer services used to be charged.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously, with the last couple of years with COVID,
Yeah.
there's been a reluctance to do that
Right.
for a number of reasons. Don't know if we get all that sort of stuff. I haven't talked to Nadia specifically about it. It might be
You
something
could do.
that Connie will be looking at now. We're sort of over that COVID.
Yes.
talks
Yeah.
around.
Oh, that'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, something that we may be looking at maybe in the next, maybe before the end of the year, probably after the election, I guess.
Yeah. Before.
When do the current ones have to be in?
You've got to the 30th of June each year to apply.
Yeah,
for
it's
graduate
July.
Yeah. So there's still obviously 9 months to go.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So we'll definitely get it done.
Thank you for that.
I'll bring that up with Nadia. or
Mm.
something.
We had talked about having a joint sort of a day here where you could bring civil defence, rights relays. There's about half a dozen different things, like community policing was another one. And you can have the hall just available for people to come and go and do those sorts of things. So I think that's a good point. I think it'd be
Yes.
worth pursuing, having making it worthwhile, having a few things.
Yeah.
No. I'd just like to say, generally at our meetings, we don't let people
No, thank you.
do it. It's not part of the process. So
Tanya's been so good today. Not giving Dave a nudge.
even though we did it was good to get the input from different things. So we shouldn't be doing it at our next meeting.
Or maybe set the guidelines from the start. Yeah.
Well, apart from that, I have nothing either to present. Make sure nothing's got to talk. Okay, now it's 2:28. I'd like to call our meeting to a close. Thank you, everyone.